Codex Beginner to Advanced. If you have already started using Codex, this video will save you a lot of wrong turns. Today I want to cover the beginner questions people ask most often, show several very useful Codex features step by step, and explain how to use Codex together with Claude Code without wasting time or tokens. At the end, I will also show the most important idea, how to make Codex keep improving and slowly become an AI assistant that understands your working style. First question. What is the difference between Codex and ChatGPT? ChatGPT is mainly a large language model. Most of the time, you ask a question and it gives you an answer. Codex is more like an AI agent. It can read files, inspect websites, use tools, open a terminal, and complete more complex tasks inside a real workspace. So if you only need ideas, explanations, or writing help, ChatGPT is enough. But if you want an assistant to actually execute a task, organize files, check pages, build something, or produce a finished deliverable, Codex is the better tool. Second question. When should you use Claude Code, and when should you use Codex? The way I think about it is simple. Claude Code can be strong for writing, design judgment, front-end layout ideas, and higher-level thinking. Codex is especially good as a stable executor. It can help you process files, run workflows, organize project materials, test pages, and deliver concrete results. So you don't need to choose only one. You can let one assistant handle the planning and creative direction, and let Codex handle execution. For example, if I need writing, design refinement, or a complex decision, I may use Claude Code first. If I need to turn that decision into actual files, automation, reports, or a working project, I use Codex. Third, how can you use Claude Code and Codex together? One method is to import work from other AI coding tools into Codex through Settings. Open Codex, go to Settings, choose General, and look for the option to import work content from another AI application. This is useful if you already have helpful material or project context somewhere else and want Codex to continue from it. Another method is to use the terminal inside Codex. Open the sidebar, choose Terminal, and you can run command line tools directly from inside the Codex workspace. That means Codex can stay in charge of the project folder while another command line tool supports the work when needed. Fourth, if you already have skills from another AI coding workflow, you can reuse the idea inside Codex. One method is to create a link or connection so Codex knows where those reusable skills live. But you need to be careful. Some skills may depend on features that only exist in the original tool. In that case, you should ask Codex to adapt the skill for Codex instead of assuming it will work perfectly. The important idea is this. Skills are not magic. They are reusable work methods. If the method is good, Codex can usually help you convert it into a format that works better inside Codex. Fifth, understand the Codex interface. On the left side, you have the main function area. You can create projects, manage conversations, open the sidebar, access settings, and use the workspace. A project is different from a normal conversation. A project is connected to a real folder on your computer. It is better for long-term work, repeated workflows, websites, reports, video projects, or anything that needs files. A normal conversation is better for short, independent questions that do not need a folder. If you start with a normal conversation and later decide it belongs in a project, you can move it into a specific project so the work has a proper place to live. Sixth, Codex is very friendly for multi-threaded work. You can run different conversations in different projects, and they can continue in parallel. You can also start a new conversation while another one is still working. For more advanced coding tasks, you can ask Codex to use sub-agents or parallel agents. For example, one agent can inspect the problem, another can test, and another can prepare documentation. But here's the important warning. If several tasks edit the same file at the same time, the file can become messy. So before using parallel work, make the boundaries clear. Tell Codex which task owns which file or which part of the project. Seventh, follow-up guidance is very useful. Sometimes Codex is already running a task and you suddenly remember something you want to add. Instead of stopping everything and restarting, you can add a follow-up instruction while the previous task is still running. Codex can queue that guidance and apply it when it reaches the right step. This is especially useful in real projects because you often remember details halfway through the work. Eighth, comments are one of my favorite Codex features. When you are looking at a file, a web page, or a preview, you can comment on a specific place and tell Codex what you want changed. For example, delete this section, make this title bigger, move this block up, rewrite this paragraph, or adjust this layout. This is much easier than describing the whole file again in a long prompt. For design work and page editing, comments can make the workflow much more direct. Ninth, set a proper security boundary. Codex can work with different permission levels. Default project permissions are usually enough for normal work inside a folder. Full computer access is much broader. It can let Codex operate outside the project folder, so beginners should not use it casually. For beginners, a review-based setting is usually safer, because Codex can ask before making sensitive decisions. The rule is simple. Give Codex enough access to finish the task, but do not give more access than the task really needs. 10th, understand quota, model choice, and speed. Codex usage is generous, but different settings can affect consumption. The model you choose, the reasoning level, and the response speed can all change how much usage you spend. For many beginner tasks, a strong default model with high reasoning is already enough. Fast mode can be useful when you really need speed, but it may use more quota. So do not always choose the highest or fastest setting automatically. Match the setting to the task. Small edits can use normal settings. Complex planning or debugging can use stronger reasoning. Large projects should be broken into clear steps, with checkpoints along the way. 11th, Codex can handle long conversations better because it can compress context automatically. In some coding tools, you may need to manually compact the conversation when it gets too long. In Codex, this can happen more automatically, so the conversation can continue without you constantly managing the context yourself. But you should still help Codex by keeping the project organized, giving clear instructions, and asking it to save important process notes. 12th, understand Codex memory. You can think of memory in 3 layers. The first layer is your global preference, how you like answers, what style you prefer, and what Codex should remember about you as a user. The second layer is project memory. A project can have its own instruction file, such as an agents.nd file, that explains the project rules, folder structure, and working style. You do not have to write this manually from the beginning. When a project becomes useful, you can ask Codex to create a project guide and save the important rules. The third layer is reusable workflow memory. If you have a repeated process, such as checking reports, generating videos, building covers, or auditing files, you can turn that process into a reusable instruction, so Codex can follow it next time. 13th, use skills and plugins. Skills are repeatable workflows. They are like methods you want the agent to use again and again. Plugins are broader. A plugin may include skills, tools, external integrations, or connections to other apps. For example, you can use a presentation plugin to create slide decks, a document plugin to build Word-style files, a spreadsheet plugin to work with structured data, and an image generation skill to create covers or visual assets. You can call some of these directly with natural language, or mention the tool when you know which one you want. The point is not to install everything. The point is to choose the right capability for the job. Browser is useful when Codex needs to check a real web page. Computer control is more powerful, because it can let Codex operate apps on your machine. Use that only when the task really needs it. 14th, automation is one of the most useful advanced features. You can create automations by chatting with Codex. For example, you can ask Codex to regularly review your conversation records, execution logs, or project notes, then produce a review report. This helps Codex understand your workflow better over time. It can summarize what worked, what failed, what rules should be saved, and what should be improved next time. That is how you turn one-time conversations into a growing work system. Finally, the biggest beginner mistake is making the task too large and too vague. Do not simply say, "Build me a complete system." Codex is powerful, but it still needs clear boundaries. Give it a clear goal, clear files, clear permission limits, and a clear first checkpoint. Tell it what to do first, what not to touch, and how you want to review the result. The real skill is not just writing prompts, it is managing the agent. When you give Codex a clear task, it can become a very strong executor. When you give it memory, skills, project rules, and review habits, it can keep improving. That is how Codex moves from a chatbot into a real AI work assistant. Subscribe for more practical AI workflow tutorials.